Let's say that you don't have enough money, your bills are piling up, you're really feeling worried, which is your emotional indicator that you're focused differently than the source within you is focused. But let's say, and it is perfectly logical, you're experiencing a financial shortage and you are worried. So that's how you're standing in your physical body. Well, every time you focus upon this shortage, this problem of shortage, you are creating an equivalent solution. And your inner being is holding steady to the vibration of the solution. If we were talking about physical well-being, when your physical body is sick, you create a vibrational wellness that is more than was there before you got sick. In the same way that when you are experiencing exaggerated shortage, you're creating a vibrational equivalent of abundance that is more than it was before you experienced your shortage. So the problem actually, which as it came into focus, actually caused you to bring into focus an equivalent solution to which you do not have access while you are still worried. Your worry, in fact, is your emotional indicator that lets you know you are doing the problem part of the equation while the source within you is doing the solution part of the equation. But you, in your physical form, cannot have access to the solution as long as the problem is what is most active in your vibration. So many people say, well, then show me the money. Inner being, smarty pants that you are, standing over there with all of my abundance, fork it over. Give me the abundance, and when I see it, I will feel better. And we say, of course you would feel better if you could see the solution to your problem, but you have to find the solution to your problem vibrationally before it can manifest. In other words, you have to withdraw your attention from the problem before the solution can come into view. So you have something to think about all day, every day. Esther has really been pondering this recently. How much attention to the problem does this particular creative experience deserve? Because there is a tipping point. In other words, of course, poking around on the problem, living life, you came to do that. You came to expand the universe by knowing what you don't want and knowing what you do want. But there is a time, and all of you have to decide when it is for you, that you're willing to say, all right, I've poked around at this problem significantly enough to create a really good solution. Now I think I'll tune myself to the solution rather than to the problem. And the answer to when that is simply this: how much discomfort am I willing to endure before I let go of the problem and let the solution show itself to me? Really, that's the only thing that makes the difference. Now, of course, most people, Esther included, who is standing in the attitude of poking around at the problem, immediately feels the discord of being a vibrational match to the problem rather than to the solution. And then something interesting kicks in for most of you. Because you now don't feel good, it feels like you should explain why you don't feel good and how bad it is that you don't feel good and whose fault it is that you don't feel good. In other words, you begin to justify your discordant relationship with who you are by hammering longer at what's wrong with this. Esther, over the years, has said things to us such as, well, it's true, as if that is any kind of criteria to use. In other words, it's true, this thing I'm using to make myself miserable and keep myself from the solution that I have already created. And we say, no one is questioning the truth of these things because you can't focus upon anything for very long without making it true. That's a terrible criteria. It's true. It's true. And so I focus on it. We say, cancer's true. Do you want some? Plundering, rapes, murder, all true. You want some of that? If you focus upon those things just because they are true, you open yourself to all kinds of things unwanted as well as wanted. We think a different criteria is in order. So rather than saying it's true, why not ask yourself, how does it feel? How does it feel? Because sometimes you can poke around on what you consider to be a problem and it feels interesting. And we want to say to you, we've never said it to you before, that if you are poking in the direction of what feels like a problem and it feels interesting, you're still in the vortex. In other words, if it still feels interesting, you are not separating yourself from who you are. You're working the contrast in a productive way from inside the vortex, because in every particle of the universe, even where we stand in non-physical, there is wanted and unwanted. The difference between where we stand is that the differentiation between our wanted and our unwanted is so slight you could not from your physical platform even perceive it. So really, what we're wanting you to sort of come to an awareness of today, in the time that we are together, is how much grief am I willing to endure for the sake of expansion? And if we were standing in your physical shoes, we would say none. Because you don't have to separate yourself from who you really are and what you want so long that you deprive yourself of the energy of alignment for so long that you are in grief or fear or despair. That's way, way, way overkill for what you intended when you decided to come forth and be a creator in this physical body. Are you understanding what we're getting at? Some of you have been listening to us for a while, and we want to say to you that we think that you have done enough poking around in the contrast of your life experience to keep yourself happily busy in the manifestation for 20 or 30 lifetimes. We really do not think that you really owe anything to anybody and that you need to torture yourself into expansion. But we also want to say to you that we are not ready to complain nor to state, nor will we ever be ready to state, that negative emotion is a bad thing, because it isn't. Negative emotion is your guidance system that lets you know that you are in this moment deviating from what? Deviating from the source? Yeah. Deviating from what you want? Yeah. Deviating from the solution while you cling to the problem? Yes. Deviating from the answer while you ramp up the question more? Yes. But the true deviation that we want you to be aware of is deviating from the expanded version of you. It's like life has caused you to vibrationally move forward into this vortex, and we'll talk more about what this vortex thing is, into this vortex. But you, for reasons of your own, and usually only intimately known by you, for reasons of your own, you are choosing to hold yourself back from the expanded version of you. And we want to proclaim in a way that you will always remember that every negative emotion that you feel, no matter how great or slight it seems in the moment that you are feeling it, every negative emotion means the same thing. You expanded, but you in your physical body aren't going with the expansion, not right now anyway. And the reason you're not going is usually because you'd rather be right than feel good. Because you've been sifting through all of the details of life, you've come to the conclusions of what you think's appropriate, and so you're standing in defiance of who you are as you proclaim the rightness of your malice against this unwanted stuff. And we want to say, and we think this is a good time to say it, you live in a universe that is attraction-based, which means there is no such thing as exclusion, which means when you shout no at it, it thinks you're saying yes. When you shout no, go away from me, unwanted person, unwanted experience, unwanted thought, unwanted whatever it is, get away from me. What you're actually vibrationally saying is, come to me by the attention that I'm giving to you. Because there is no word that proclaims come and go. There's only attention which always proclaims come. So if you say, I don't want that, You have to know that there is something that you do want that's formulating. And this art of allowing gathering that we are participating in together today is about coming to that discernment early on and turning your attention to what is wanted rather than pushing against what is not wanted. Now, this emotion that you feel, it's really an interesting thing, because you could give it lots of different names depending upon what's happening in your life. But one label would suit it just as well, and that is, it is discernment. It is an indicator of alignment or not. You see, who you really are is someone who, through life, has come to know only love. That's what source is. So when you find a reason to hate, no matter how justified it seems in your physical standards, as you stack everybody up and say these are desired behaviors and these are undesired behaviors, we know there are some very, very undesirable behaviors around you on your planet. And it seems logical from your physical format to sort them into piles and to condemn the most undesirable of them. But what happens in the first or last time that you attempted that is that as you proclaim something unwanted, undesirable, and you feel your hatred or your malice or your fear about it, that emotion that you are feeling is not an indication of the degree of badness of your object of attention. It is something so much simpler than that. It is your indicator of your personal internal disagreement with your own source, because source, whether you like it or not, loves those that you hate. Esther said to us, Abraham, come on, you saw that. You don't really love that about that person, do you? And we say, if we cannot find a lovable aspect, we look somewhere else. In other words, we do not stand in a place of pushing against, and the larger part of you does not stand in a place of pushing against. So when you decide that you are going to utilize your emotional guidance system, what you're actually saying is, all right, I get it. I was non-physical energy. I came into this body as an extension of non-physical energy, of source energy, of that which man calls God, for the very express purpose of sifting through variety in order to inspire myself to an awareness of further expansion. Is that right? We say, yes, that's exactly right. And then you say, all right, so I'm in my physical body. I'm sorting through the contrast. I know what I don't want. I give birth to what I do want, but I can't easily focus on what I do want because it's a new vibration. Is that right? That's right. And it's easier for me to focus upon what I don't want because I do that more often. We say, that's right. But right there, you have the ability to lean in the direction of what you do want. And here is the best reason that we can ever give you for deciding to do that. You can't feel good otherwise. And the reason you can't feel good is because your life caused the larger part of you. Remember, that's us. That's where we come in. Your life in your physical body caused expansion of source, and source stands, the larger part of you, holding steady to that newfound place that you have carved out, calling you into alignment. And as you move in the direction of that alignment, as you move into this vortex of creation, you feel better and better and better. But if you hold yourself out there beating the drum of the problem, you feel worse and worse and worse. And the reason you feel bad is not because of the problem. The reason you feel bad is because you're depriving yourself of the energy of you. You are the creator of you, you see. A woman said to us one day, not so long ago, Abraham, my lover left and now I'm sad. And we said, no, you're not. And she said, I beg your pardon? And we said, you are sad because in your relationship with this person, in knowing what you don't want, you created a vibrational relationship that is really what you want. And as you focus upon the absence of your lover, you deprive yourself of vibrational alignment with who you really are. You're sad because you're not up to speed with who you are, and you're blaming it on the fact that your lover left. But since you can't control what your lover's doing, you can't control what anyone is doing, don't you think that it is prudent to understand that you are not sad because of something somebody else is doing? You're sad because in that behavior you created an improved version that you're not focused upon.